Pressure's on.
Did you hear that there, Mr. Westfall?
Pressure's on.
And right here.
A sound of puff. Well, we'll see if number 2 will do that man wrong. Hopefully, it'll make more barking than smash. Folks, I'm all glad you came out here today. Beautiful day, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful day, is it not?
Yes, sir. It is.
Killing morning.
Thank you. Thank you for using the word sir. As a matter of fact, my name is Lieutenant T. Anthony. I'm the executive officer, 2nd Kentucky, Morgan's Artillery. This here is gun number 2. Gun number 1, he lives in Paw Paw, under the command and ownership of Captain J. Phillips, which were all under the command of General John Hunt Morgan, which led the great raid across the Ohio River, 1863. Late June, early July of 1863. We have any Hoosiers out there?
Yay!
Hoosiers! We got Hoosiers out there. Yeah, I've seen that shaking their head. You all know about Mr. Morgan?
Yes, sir.
And his 2,500 men.
Oh, yes, sir.
You know what? A lot of Hoosiers are actually more proud of that heritage than they is Yankees.
Yep.
You know, I say God bless y'all.
Yes, sir.
And if it wasn't for that particular ride and raid, there's a lot of Hoosier farmers that are now very wealthy horse breeders because of Mr. John Hunt Morgan. You see, it took at least an average of 11 to 12 horses per man to make that raid. According in Indiana, all the way past Cincinnati, Ohio, West Point, Ohio, which is just a few miles from Pennsylvania. That's the line, mile line. That's where Morgan got captured. If y'all have ever been through Indiana and Ohio on the North Bank, that's a long ways. He did it on horses. Well, I'll allude back to the fact how some of them Hoosiers got to be wealthy horse farmers. You see, a lot of them were poor farmers. And, you know, when Morgan's men borrowed horses, he didn't steal them now, he just borrowed them to replace them ones that were all jaded. Sometimes he took off with the farmer's nag and left a tired out, thoroughbred racing horse. Well, he complained like crazy until he realized a pickup truck got taken and a Maserati got left behind. And those today, because of that, there's many families in southern Indiana, very wealthy horse breeders, because of Mr. General John Hunt Morgan and his men. Imagine that. Boy, oh boy. That's a lot of money, horse breeding. Y'all ever been down to Louisville and Kentucky in that area? Some of the beautiful horse farms. It's that way along the north bank of the Ohio River, too. Oh, yeah. All right. What you see here, this is a 12-pound mountain howitzer, 1841. Although some of you I know notice been looking at the muzzle of that. That don't look like a 12-pound. You're right, it is not. The only thing that's not authentic on this particular piece of artillery, if you notice though, it's been shouldered in the front to give you the idea it would have been a 4-inch diameter instead of a 2. But under 21st century economy reasons, it's cheaper to fire 4 rounds out of a pound of powder than it is 2. That's the philosophy behind that. Make no mistake though, this is no tomato steak. I fired double canister out of this one time. It was at one of your, what is that called, a 20th century type horseless carriage on the driver's side. And I'm telling you what, now I know what Bonnie and Clyde went through. One pull of this lanyard with double canister from the front fender all the way to the back quarter panel was full of holes. And a lot of it went clean on through. That was about 50 caliber musket balls I fired out of this thing. That's the last thing number 2's ever fired, anything in projectile and in anger. Most of the time, there was a gentleman that was wondering about that. And I want to show you, we reenacted, we try to play as safe as we can. It is against the law. 4 ounces, number 3 gunpowder right here. You can see though, shaped like a bullet, but there's no ball on top. So, we're not going to punch a hole in Granny's kitchen. That would be against the law. So, just wanted to let you know, if you ever go to a reenactment, it's all for show, folks. We got to go home on Monday, and we got to live in the 21st century. So, what what I'd like to do, folks, there on that end, if you'd kindly give number 2 a little bit this way, I don't want you to get too much of the impact. You'll get plenty enough where as close you are. Thank you very much. Now, in 21st century or 19th century artillery, it was much like 18th century artillery, pretty similar, but some changes have been made. This particular change now is, instead of back then, they use what they call a slow match on a linstock. The fellow would touch that on. What we'd have down here is a naval lock, which is nothing more than a musket cap, much like you saw this gentleman over here showing you in front of the coop. Same thing that fires off number 2. Friction primer was the other device. It was like a small copper tube that would slide down into the main charge. The fellow, like I'm going to do, pull the lanyard. And what that was nothing more than your substance that your modern day kitchen match has on it, especially the strike anywhere kind. You pull that, you'd run that copper wire through that tube, whew, hot puff of flash would shoot down the main charge, kaboom. The business went downrange. This was a little more, how should we say, efficient and more reliable. The musket cap gave the 12-pound mountain howitzer a little bit of advantage there. He couldn't stand up to fighting and shooting toe-to-toe with the big wheel guns. After all, 10-pound Parrott, 12-pound Napoleon, they had an average range of well over a mile, maybe 2 miles, depending on the trajectory. Number 2 here, at best, about 1,200 yards. You can send a 12-pound ball. The majority of uses of these guns on both sides was to guard the flanks of the artillery line, to keep infantry and cavalry from coming around on the left or the right of main battery artillery lines. Nothing more than a big giant shotgun on wheels. And like I told you before, when I fired into that 20th century horseless carriage device, double canister, an average of anywhere from 68 to 72 58 caliber musket balls flying out of this thing. You can imagine the devastation it would send downrange at 300 yards against infantry and men on horseback. And unfortunately, horses are just like humans. They can bleed and they can get hit too. So you can just imagine the carnage that this little thing would bring to people coming around the flanks. The other advantage is this particular gun, it's on a mountain carriage. It can be taken apart and hauled on 3 animals. Henceforth, go up over the hills. That's why they call it the mountain howitzer. The tube and the wheels would set on one specially designed saddle, the trail on another one, and then 3 limber boxes with the ammunition on the porch there would sit on a 3rd animal. And you could hump them over hills. They didn't need the roads. And in about 15-20 minutes, a well-rounded crew could get this gun together and in action. That was pretty good back then, being the tube itself was well over 300 pounds. So, anyway, are we all set? Tube clear? All right, very good. Point it out. What Mr. Westfall's doing, he's putting the round hole, and I'm going to give the command, ram. He's going to slowly slide it back till he seats it all the way. And then give it a good tunk or 2. And he's going to call out.
Round home.
Very good. The gunner, which I'm going to portray here, would then take gimlet in the 18th century. 19th century they call it a prick. Don't be taking offense. But send it down. Now I'm exposing the main charge. The main charge. Thank you, Mr. Westfall. Now I'm inserting the igniter. If you was listening over there to Mr. Westfall, those of you, is nothing more than a musket cap on his 1858. Seated on the nipple. Command was now given. Gun number 2 ready! All right. Now, folks, I see many of you have those photographic type devices. If you'll kindly put your finger on the shutter device, which activates it, whatever it may be, when I give the command fire, The fear of the Almighty will make you push that button and you should get a fairly good shot. If not, I'm prepared to fire a second round for your pleasure. Alrighty? We'll wait for clearance there.
That's the little one.
Oh, and by the way, yes, little ones, if you have any type of hearing aid devices, heart murmur devices, or little ones, I suggest you make adjustments. When I give the command fire, there'll be flame that'll probably be coming out there almost touching that tree. If it right in front. If it was nighttime, you could see it really spectacular. All right, gun number 2, ready! Prepare! Fire! Now, that was a whoa! I didn't hear nobody go. Number 2's image is not turned. How many all like to hear that again?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Now what Mr. Westfall's doing here in the heat of battle, of course he'd be doing it much quicker. He just wormed, and now he's sending a mop, a wet mop downrange.
Michael, come on,
He's
let's
gonna
go
have to
horses.
Maybe you should
I want to watch him fire it again.
Get up here?
He's the other one.
I think I got it. I'm not...
Yeah, sounds a little tight. He's using a wet mop to go down and extinguish any hot chodes or embers that may still be down there. Normally a 2-man crew would be working up front. It's the poor fella who's doing the ramming, which would be on this side. In more cases than not, in 18th century artillery and 19th century artillery, due to command and battle and whatnot, and the speed needing to get. All set? All right, go ahead. I'll take the thumbstall off. This poor fellow that was ramming, there was a hot spark down that tube, and that round was pushed down there. Back then, there's no such thing as aluminum foil. Those were wrapped with either a linen or a cotton bag. You can imagine, much like your cigar or cigarette burn, that would go right through that cloth. And while that poor fellow is shoving that round down there with the rammer, you cannot let go of that fast enough. The implement and your right arm would go downrange. I guarantee it. It's happened many times, both time frames.